Hi everyone, my name is Owen McGab and welcome to HYVA. What we do here is we empower entrepreneurs to be able to find more time in their day to focus on what matters by providing them with capable, reliable virtual assistant. And today I have one of my clients, Lorna Powell from Sales Partners Cape Town. Actually, it's Sales Partners, and it's a company in Cape Town, South Africa. So the website is salespartnercapetown.co.ca. And I'm curious too, because as you heard about something new from your coach. You're a coach coaching entrepreneurs, but you have a coach, which is great because you're always going to know what's working. And your coach suggests that you should hire a virtual assistant. I'm curious that you might have had initial fears and reservations about the process. What were they?
I did. I did have, and I mean it's very similar to employing a new employee, except that obviously a virtual assistant isn't in your office. So for me that was a benefit, and that was really great. But in terms of the negative things, being virtual, you're so far away. So obviously one of the concerns is, well, will I have any control? Will I know what's going on? And the concerns were really in that area.
Okay, so you had concerns in that area, and I'm curious as to, you decided that you want to go ahead and hire a virtual assistant, but what kind of research did you do? I'm trying to figure out what influenced your decision to choose a specific VA company.
Right, well, I guess you've heard of the 4-Hour Working Week.
Yes.
Yeah, that book
by Tim Ferriss. Yes.
Yeah, well, he makes a few suggestions in his book, and I went on the web and I had a look at some of them. And indeed, I outsourced a little bit of work to one of the companies mentioned in there in India. But I get very, very frustrated when people don't communicate with me. I'm one of these people, I have to know what's going on. I have to know what's happening, yeah?
Yeah.
And so these guys in India were doing all this work, and I'd paid them some money, but I didn't know what was going on. I found that very, very frustrating. So when Drew talked about you, I went onto your website. You've got those great videos on there that explain the process in terms of outsourcing, which was really a help. And then not only that, but also you do a 1-week free trial, which was great. So I thought, hey, I've got nothing to lose. I might as well go ahead with the 1-week free trial. And so that's what I did.
And you mentioned something, and thanks, by the way, for everyone giving us a trial to see how we go. But you mentioned something that you tried the other company. There was a communication issue that you had. How's that different now that you work with HYVA? Because that's something that someone who's listening to you might want to know. You're still with us, so obviously communication is good. But how, from your own side of the story, what is it like?
Well, when I talk to other people about this, I always tell them how great it is, because at the beginning of the time that you start working for me, I get an email from you to say, hey, Lorna, this is what we're going to do today, A, B, C, D, and E. And then at the end of the day, I get another email from you saying, this is what we've done today. We spent this amount of time doing this amount of time doing this. These are the problems we had or we didn't have. And it really is great. If in between the time there are any questions, again, I get the questions by email, but you also use that project thing, was it Basecamp? So I can upload files and questions and messages on there as well, and develop a to-do list. So there are certain things I have to do that are quite repetitive. I can just put them all in the to-do list as I find them, and I love it. I mean, it really, really works for me. I can see what's done, and I can see what issues you have, so it's great.
And the whole communication thing, how does it feel to know that you have people working in real time for you and with you as well? How does that feel?
It's brilliant. But what the thing that I really like, and I mean this is something that we're going to be doing sometime this week, is also they're very keen on working with you in terms of how can you improve the process. So we've been through a few changes, and obviously we've had some problems, because that's natural. But the reality is that those problems, they've been solved. They've been problems on my end as well as problems on your end. But every time we've come across a problem through communication, sometimes there's also been Skype. We've basically always managed to solve the issues, which has been really brilliant. And yeah, I mean, what can I say? Works very well.
Yes, I mean it's great news to hear that you came from a place where you didn't have that much a good experience, that you come here and this experience is totally refreshing. And just maybe any other coach that might be listening to this might be wondering, what specifically do HYVA do for you, if you can, share some of those items of what we do for you, just so we give other people listening to this, particularly if they're a coach, ideas on how maybe they can work with a virtual assistant.
Like anybody in business, you go out there, you meet people, you have business cards, and sometimes I have a dozen business cards at a time. So what I do is I scan them in, I upload the file up to the Basecamp, and then what the ladies do is they type in all the details into my CRM system for me, which they have access to. I let them know what the source of the lead was, so they enter all that information in, and then the next day when I come in, I've got my information there, and I can contact the people, send them an email, do whatever it is I need to do from my CRM system. And that's great, because obviously you need to know who you contacted, and there's nothing worse than having a pile of business cards that you've got to go through. Definitely. So as long as I make sure that everything's scanned in, I've got all the contacts in my CRM system.
And I know
another thing that they
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, another thing that they do is I run drip campaigns for people who go onto the website. They download a free ebook, and then they get a drip campaign, and they manage and look after all of those drip campaigns for me.
Wow. So I love that. I mean, it's basically figuring out, and I think the most important thing is that you mentioned something at the very beginning, which is systems, is that by having systems in place, you can have someone else come in and handle them based on the system that you have. That whole experience with creating systems and handing over to the VAs to have the work done for you, can you share some more insight as to maybe what issues you had initially with systems and how you worked through those issues and how it is now?
Okay, so it was difficult at first to explain to them how the CRM system worked. I tried, but it didn't quite work. They didn't really understand exactly the process, and I had to go over that. I think it was about 2 or 3 times before we really got that off the ground. So that took a little bit of time to get right, but now it's right. They're learning how to use the system themselves, and the great thing is I use a combination of Sugar CRM and MailChimp. And MailChimp, well, both of them, in fact, they've got their own how-to videos. So you can go, or your staff can go and check out how to do things if they're not sure, quite apart from what I've shown them. That's actually really very good. It helps with the to-do process. And much like we're recording this video today, that's what we did in the beginning, is we recorded videos with me showing them how to go in and do some of the things.
And I'm glad you said something about the fact that we had issues, because I always want to make sure that this is real and let people understand what's going on. So we had issues with the thing, and from the person who's listening to this, be like, oh, but why don't I go ahead and do it myself if they're going to have issues with it? But here's the thing. If you're taking like 2 hours, 3 hours every day to do it yourself, and then you, instead of saying spend the time to train someone, but actually invest the time to train somebody, say 2 hours to train somebody or something, now that time is spent to invest to train the person on how to do the work. Once they get it, you have that free time every day that you don't have to worry about that. And that's the value.
That's exactly right. That exactly is the value. I mean, for me, yes, it was an investment in time in terms of training them, but now they know what to do. I mean, like, for instance, last week I wasn't very well, so I wasn't really working on Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, and even Thursday and Friday I didn't feel too good. So I just didn't turn on my computer, because I knew that those things that needed to go on in the background were continuing to go on in the background even without me being here. So it's great.
That's awesome, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It means I can go on holiday.
Well, Lorna, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, testimonial and sharing your experience with us. And I'm curious, I always want to leave people who are listening with one step that they can take, in regards to pulling the trigger and moving forward. What's that one thing that you want to leave with somebody who's listening, who's considering hiring a virtual assistant?
I would say, if they invest the time to get the process started and do training, then what they need to do is to constantly think to themselves, how can I improve this process? And that for me is one of the big benefits, is that when I had an employee, I just left them to do what they wanted to do. I had the view, they knew what to do, surely they could improve the process on their own. And of course employees don't do that. But now with a virtual assistant, I'm constantly thinking, and they are also thinking and coming up with ideas, what can we do to improve How can we move forward in a better way? What else can they do for me? All of those kind of things are constantly on your mind. And that can actually make a big difference to your business.